Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Refracted Curvature, Neil, Eli, Righteous, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Let's get it on! Let's get some life in this show today.
Hey, yo!
Good morning. The pre-show.
Yeah, reasonably eventful pre-show, I suppose. Covered a couple of videos, so I'll do a quick shout out and we'll play it in a moment after housekeeping to Flatsoid, and then we'll move on to promoting him, getting you to leave him a comment on his video that he edited, and then we'll move on to Debatism, which is journalism show, where he's got a couple of candidates to debate the nature of Earth. Fantastic stuff. So we're going to cover that as well. Obviously, we'll get you to let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with all that good stuff. In the vain hope, as always, that these larger YouTubers will promote us where the algorithm does not. In any event, is there any evidence that there's a physical geometric sphere edge, that's a horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth? It's almost like we're not live.
On Discord.
it's like this isn't a live show or anything.
Well,
Hey, Nathan, sorry I missed it. What's up, brother?
I'm always talking, and John is...
A peanut gallery saving you here, lads. Let's go ahead, Flat Earth Pilot.
What's happening, Nathan? How are you this morning?
No, I'm great. Any evidence of Earth curve?
He asked a housekeeping question. Sometimes the silence tells everything.
I was just restarting to try. No, I've seen no evidence of Earth curvature at all, sir.
I'd check it out. While you were giving me that answer, Neil was claiming dramatic pauses. Yeah, there's a difference between a dramatic pause and something that if you were on the air as a radio station would get you a fine. There we go. There's a subtle difference between the two. It's got to be said. We haven't had this one in a while.
No.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
It's also a negative. I've seen none.
Wouldn't you feel it, not see it?
To a small extent, yeah. I mean, Adam once did the extrapolations and figured out how much you'd be able to measure it by. And yes, you could definitely detect it with an accelerometer and various other instrumentation based on what they allege to be the rates and velocities. And no, would you detect it? I'm going to go with no. Generally speaking, you wouldn't, or as a, you'd adapt to it in some way. However, at the other end of that scale, the vestibulary system, your inner ear, should detect the subtle amount that you could detect. So it's a kind of mixed bag. The reality is that your average phone would be able to detect it with its accelerometers if it was real, and it doesn't. So there you go, Neil.
Well,
This is an interesting point, though, that you're hitting
accelerating
on,
it.
Nathan.
Hold on, John.
My bad.
Go ahead,
My
Flat
bad.
Earth Pilot.
Well, obviously, being a pilot, I know that the Earth doesn't turn, but also what you're talking about like people acclimatizing essentially or getting used to the axial rotation. But if the Earth was rotating, it would be rotating at different speeds at different latitudes. So then if they went to a different latitude that was rotating at different speed, wouldn't they feel it then?
I'm more interested in you saying you're a pilot for the, I don't know, 20th person to have told me on this show that they're a pilot.
Oh, I am. I just got my pilot's license actually.
Oh, okay.
In the mail.
That explains why you would say it. In other words, I wouldn't expect a pilot to immediately come out with, and I'm a pilot, especially with it in their name. But you have and you do, but you're just qualified. Okay, what do you fly?
I fly. So here's the joke, right? Because in this debate, you have a bunch of people, like you say, that's I'm a pilot, right? But most of them are single engine rated pilots, right? And it's nothing against that, right? But that's not commercial pilot. That's not flying big stuff. That's not flying freaking jet fighter pilot kind of stuff, right? There's a big difference. And
What do you-
so, yeah,
what do you fly?
my pilot's license is an FAA license for, let me give you it's small unmanned aircraft systems remote pilot. I fly drones.
Are you a drone pilot?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Well, fair enough. You built it up. You built it up for a while there. I'm like, what plane do you fly? Okay, you're a drone pilot. Fair enough. Cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. But I can get paid for it now.
Excellent.
Which is fun.
I assume you're obviously a drone enthusiast. So the last, it was actually a Globe Dawn Treader, was an exceptional drone pilot. I saw some of his videos.
He is. I have seen his videos just recently. That dude is wild, bro.
And I mean, who knew? The guy used to come here and debate us, and he was not sharp in this debate. I'm not saying the guy's stupid, but I'm just saying he wasn't up to date with the flat earth debate, let's just say. But my word, his videos when he's flying that super fast drone and cutting through gaps in trees that are only a meter wide, you're like, woohoo! I bet you've lost a few drones learning how to do that. So yeah, shout out to you, Dawn Treader, if you're listening. Awesome videos, my friend. Absolutely epic.
100%. That dude is bad. He is really good. Meaning he's really good. Yeah.
I
Everything
assume
you're saying.
your certification is for something considerably more substantial and for doing something much more boring like surveying or whatever. You know, just fly up, film that, make sure you don't cause any aircraft to crash in the process, make sure you got the right certification, all that sort of jazz, right?
Basically, yeah, you got to just kind of be familiar with, the basics. It is a pretty, if you're not familiar with aviation, you definitely have to do some studying. You know what I mean? For me, I'm familiar with it, so it didn't take me very long. I bought a course, studied it real quick, a couple of days, went and took the test. You know what I mean? So it just really depends, but it's yeah. I've already done one job. I filmed the yacht. It was pretty crazy. I filmed the yacht with my drone. I thought
That sounds like
awesome. And guess what?
That's not business. That's got to be a private customer that just wanted his yacht filmed, right?
No, it was actually funny story actually. The company that was doing the engine work hired the guy to do the posting for the social media for the diesel engine company, right?
Okay.
So I get hired by that guy, and I go on to this yacht, assuming that the guy had told him we were going to be flying a drone, right? That was dumb. So I just launched this drone off this guy's $1 million lie. He didn't even know, right? And I was there was a lot of unexpected things that happened, right? It was a good case study for sure. And I had a pretty tough time getting it back on the yacht because of that.
Oh, okay.
I ended up back with my drone. It was fun. And they made the video, and I got paid.
Okay, I'm going to do a quick shout out. So shout out to Alternate World for joining as a member. This is the ultimate question. We'll see how this goes. A lot riding on this. So given it's your title, your handle, right, Flat Earth Pilot, there must be something in what you do that's going to allude to the nature of our world. And there's plenty of obvious things. Feel free to just reference them if you want, but, give us your spiel, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, since the beginning of this argument, I have known that aviation destroys the globe in any way. You know what I mean? Like helicopters. Enough said, bro. Like, what do you need to say? They used to tell. I remember watching the space shuttle take off, Nathan, and my father would tell me. He told me legitimately that the space shuttle was arcing in the sky because we were rotating underneath it, bro. That's how crazy that stuff
I'm glad
was.
you got there. Okay, so yes, indeed, there is an assertion from the Globe side that we have as most recent housekeeping question, would assert that we have a rotational ability to detect that rotation, I should say, by means of a Coriolis deflection. Well, what is that? Well, that's you observing things that aren't attached to a spinning Earth drifting at 15 degrees an hour. Like the stars. You know, they're not attached to Earth and we're turning underneath according to the Globe claim. Therefore, you see them drift at 15 degrees an hour. Well, anything that's not attached to a turning Earth would exhibit that effect. They simultaneously claim that the effect is demonstrable with gyroscopic motion. That is to say that the cage attached to the ground moves at the rate of Earth's turning. That's 15 degrees an hour. So therefore, the deviation seen in the gyroscopic plane of reference that is the spinning gyro, because the cage has moved around it, is a deviation in the cage at 15 degrees an hour. Ergo, the gyroscope is in the inertial reference frame, and the cage is in the non-inertial turning reference frame. And you see a deviation according to the Globe claim, which does not exist. You cannot exhibit this. Now, there is also simultaneously a claim that it's demonstrable in faulty fiber optic gyros. Nevertheless, this claim of 15 degrees an hour in the rotational motion of either a fiber optic, ring laser, or mechanical gyroscope would be to assert that Earth is turning underneath as a separate non-inertial turning reference frame. If this was the case, then a drone pilot would observe his drone appearing to drift away at 15 degrees an hour as it hovers. Now, it isn't actually drifting away if the Globe Earth claim is true. You are moving away from it on a rotating Earth. That would be the illusion of Coriolis deflection. The drone hovers, you turn underneath, it looks like it's drifting away at 15 degrees an hour. The fact that it is actually moving away from you at a given rate, that's 15 degrees an hour, and that depends on the point on a turning Earth you are. Your latitude will dictate the rim velocity of that turning deflection, but ultimately the angular rate can be defined as a single value at 15 degrees an hour, regardless of where you are on a sphere Earth that's turning at different rates. So ultimately, what are you going to see if you're a drone pilot? You're going to launch your drone on a turning Earth, as claimed, and it's going to drift away from you. Now, if you're on the equator, it's going to drift away from you at 1,000 miles an hour. You're going to notice that. Now, fair enough, the Globe would say, oh, no, it's not really drifting, it's just an illusion. It's you turning underneath. That's the reason your drone's whizzed off at 1,000 miles an hour, because the Earth's turned underneath as a non-inertial turning reference frame. Check out this gyro, drifting at 15 degrees an hour, leaving you with an edge velocity of 1,000 miles an hour. Alrighty. So, does that happen? I asked the drone pilot, who's just got his pilot's license. Is that the right term?
Yes, sir. I mean, remote pilot is all the same. No, I've never seen the drone drift. In fact, as soon as it takes off, I can just let go of the controls and it'll just sit there in the same spot, no problem. Doesn't drift.
The Coriolis debunked. So the claim that Earth has a Coriolis deflection at 15 degrees an hour, because Earth is a non-inertial turning reference frame, turning beneath an inertial reference frame, would give us this illusion of Coriolis, exactly as the Globe claims. It simply does not happen. There is no Coriolis deflect. Nothing's deflecting at 15 degrees an hour. We're not turning.
I heard a positive claim that you could acclimate to 1,000 miles an hour acceleration on the equator. That's a positive claim. I'd like to see that backed up.
I said it, didn't I?
Yeah.
I'm going on Adam's numbers in terms of how much you detect, and I just remember the number being very small. So you're right. The value would increase
1,000 miles an hour.
That's the edge velocity
of acceleration.
Yeah, but the edge velocity when you're on the actual rotating platform, Earth in this example is claimed to be turning 1,000 miles an hour. That's the rim velocity. But Adam would have to be here for me to even attempt. Oh man, why am I saying this? I feel so easily. I made that claim. I can't back it. Let's just make the disclaimer. I'm taking my information from a mathematician, and I have not done this math.
Hold on.
So,
well, have
my
you
bad.
ever been on a roundabout before?
Yeah, but the roundabout's not going to be moving at 15 degrees an hour. That's incredibly slow.
No, that's not my point. That's not my point. I didn't say that. That's not my point. As you move from the center of the roundabout, your perceived centrifugal force in that frame of reference increases, does it not?
Oh, thank God. Yes, I mean, or no, absolutely. I'll just stutter my way around it while we say hello to Adam. But I'm definitely correct. Hey, Adam.
Good afternoon. You stutterer. I don't know what you're stuttering for, but yeah.
Right. As you move out from the center of rotation on a roundabout, the perceived centrifugal force that you will feel will increase.
Yes, it will.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. So you're moving 1,000 miles per hour, acceleration, not speed, not just speed, because you're changing vector. How do you acclimate to that?
Okay, my basis for that claim was looking over very casually Adam's maths in regards to the value that would be detected by an accelerometer. Now, number one, I couldn't even tell you at what latitude that was claimed to be done at in Adam's maths, but he's here now, so thank the Lord, he might be able to give a better answer. Unless he just throws me under the bus and goes, I don't know what you're talking about. For example, he could do that. We'll see.
It's the application of the supposed force that would be there under the assumptions of a rotating ball Earth. So that vector will. And this is why we make the point that we state it at the equator, because then centrifugal rotational force is applied in direct opposition to the proposed gravitational force. So one up, one down, giving a net reduced 9.8 to 9. Whatever it turned out to be. If you come to like 45-degree latitude, then your opposing centrifugal effect is actually not in direct alignment with the point of rotation. So you get a 45-degree difference between. So you're still getting the same amount applied, but it's applied in a different direction. So the net effect on the G down is reduced less. That makes sense.
Right,
it's reduced less. That's exactly what I was saying. It's reduced less. Yes, that's exactly what I was saying. I would say, yeah, reduce less. Yeah, exactly,
right.
Adam. Thank you.
But you're introducing ideas that aren't applicable to my example. Gravity, centripetal force. Do you feel centripetal force on a roundabout?
Is that not directly linked to the assertion of gravity in the first instance when you give it that title?
I'm not talking about gravity. You all have red herringed into that.
I did.
Well, you feel it by holding on, don't you? So you're for the pedal. Do you mean?
Yeah, you feel centripetal force by holding on to the roundabout, or are you resisting the centrifugal force that you're experiencing within that reference frame?
Well, the centripetal will be in your arm, won't it, or on the piece of string?
So the centripetal force is the molecules that hold your arm together? Because if you're resisting the centrifugal force with your arms, that means you're feeling a centrifugal force.
No. Let me just qualify it, right? Even though I was sarcastically trying to take credit for Adam's words earlier. In this regard, right, what Adam's describing is if you imagine somebody who's literally hanging on for dear life because the roundabout you're describing in your example is going so fast that they're being flung out with quite significant force and therefore holding on for dear life with their feet further out, travelling a greater distance, at an increased circumferential value, and their hands at the decreased value holding on to the edge of the pole. That's the circumstance. Well, when you translate that to a lower rate of speed, it's just the friction in your shoes that offers the centripetal, how'd you say the word? Centripetal force, right? It wouldn't be translatable, but when Adam says hanging on, it's either the friction in your shoes or to scale that up to see the same example, it would be someone hanging on for dear life with their arms, as Adam put it, being the string in his loosely described analogy. Right, Adam?
So you have a demonstration of someone traveling 1,000 miles per hour and the friction in their shoes, 1,000 miles per hour acceleration, and the friction in their shoes resisting that centrifugal force.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Adam's not coming to save me.
Well, I've joined a bit late, so I'm struggling to understand it. But
I'll give you some background. I've asserted, Adam, off the back of information I got from you, that the value that you'd measure, right? So we would often say, oh, well, you'd feel it. And then you went off and said, well, would you? Let's calculate it out and see how much you'd actually feel. And the answer was almost nothing, but you would be able to pick it up on the accelerometer of a phone, for example. Right, that's what I have gone off the back of and said, there's a good chance, I just threw this in, that your vestibulary system would eventually become accustomed to it because it's not very much. The actual value is not very high. Now, me saying that as an off-the-cuff mark that I didn't really give much thought, just me blabbing my mouth where I shouldn't, has been challenged. And it's gone, hang on, you're saying a rim velocity, so now it's slightly different because we're not talking about the accelerometer value that you were describing in your mathematics. But the rim velocity, 1,000 miles an hour, how are you supposed to describe your inner ear compensating for that, let alone the friction on your shoes? Well, when I'm hearing it back, I'm going, I've got nothing here. Because it does sound like, well, yeah, when you describe it like that, 1,000 miles an hour, I just can't remember the values in your math, so I'm drawing, I'm coming up short because I'm stealing your valor and then being challenged on it. I haven't got the fortitude to actually defend this.
So this is so the way I had to do it, remember, this is conceptual because there is no centrifugal force created by a rotating Earth that we can differentiate on. Otherwise, things would weigh different at different latitudes. So we've had to use F equals NA, and we've done it basically on a carousel, and that's what I do, on a roundabout to compare those things with I can't remember the formula straight off the top of my head now, but to show the net effect of the R value and the rotational speed and how that plays out to elicit a centrifugal force that would be there if the Earth was rotating. So if we're making that, you're right, there is a value. It's very small, 0.0 or 0.3% of the total supposed G value, but it's there. Yeah?
Objection.
Just let him get to the end. Okay, objection noted. Let's just let him get to the end so we can hear the rest of it. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, so it does exist in their description. Yeah, in their description, not mine. And they do claim that this will be a counter effect to gravity directly at the equator. So, yeah, I said as small as it is, it's still calculable and measurable. Certainly measurable. It's not that small.
Well, can I get my objection in?
Go ahead.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, F equals ma gives you gravity as a force. That centripetal force would be gravity. Gravity is not a force. Everything you said about the opposing force is now invalid. All you have.
Objection. I've got this.
No, it's not.
I've got this covered. Right. Just sit yourself down, get your panties back out of a twist that they're in, John. You can think of it as a force. Okay?
No, you can't.
No, I'm telling you, you can. No, let me say it with a slightly different intonation. You can, and you must think of it as a force.
Oh my God. No.
Stop laughing, Chocolate. I'm holding back the laughter. You can do it too. Got to close the line now.
No, John, we can, we do, we must consider Newtonian gravity as a force. Doesn't mean it really is one, but we don't have to work at the really is level.
Right, but when you're talking about acceleration, right, and a change of velocity, you're talking about actual forces you would feel. Now, whether you perceive them on a secondary frame of reference as centrifugal, what's actually happening is your body's wanting to travel straight. The frame of reference is turning, and you get the perception that you're wanting to be thrown outward. It's actually your body wanting to remain in a straight motion. So when we're dealing with actual forces, to invoke gravity is non sequitur at best.
Okay, well, you are absolutely correct. First and foremost, kudos, right? Secondly, what you're actually exposing by highlighting what you're highlighting is the very reason why Newtonian gravity is the foundation of education for indoctrination into the heliocentric religion, right? It's a foundation. You can't not have this force to counteract us not flying off the spinning water ball. It has to be there. Now, in current Einsteinian fourth-dimensional pseudo-Riemannian space-time bending, it isn't a force, and that's gravity. But does that mean that they've removed that Jenga block of Newtonian forces, keeping us essentially to the side of the spinning water ball? Well, no, they still teach it in schools for that very reason. That's why that no amount of picket lines or petitioning the government will ever change the education structure until we relinquish ourselves of heliocentrism, because it is a fundamental foundational Jenga block that they cannot remove, even though it's no longer a force in Einsteinian terminology. Well, it's still a force in Newtonian. There you go, John. Problem solved. Keep it in the education for the kids.
They can't get rid of it, right? Because they don't know how else to arrange the model of the galaxy. That's all based on Newtonian mechanics. And they can't apply the same thing with Einstein mechanics. So they have to use the Newtonian model because they can't do it any other way. That's also...
Well, hold on. It's interesting because Newtonian mechanics only apply to inertial frames of reference, not to non-inertial frames of reference. So why would you apply Newtonian gravity to a non-inertial reference frame to begin with?
Good question. You can't, you won't, but you will, you must, and you can think of gravity as a force so that we can move on.
But that's where the Einstein taste comes in. You just fill the holes with Einstein and then it can work, right? Just Newtonian mechanics alone can't do it anymore. They realized that even though it was the only thing that could sort of put it all together, there were still problems. And then Einstein's just that paste, right? It's that little paste they needed to fill the hole with to make it perfect, just like the orbit of Mercury, which doesn't fit with exclusive Newtonian mechanics. And so
like
they just
Einstein of the gaps.
paste it up.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
it's not.
exactly.
No. It superseded it. Anthony would be, I was going to say turning in his grave, but he's not dead.
Yeah, but hold on. Yeah, but it's not about what is official. It's about the actual construction of what they're using, not about what is supposed to be. This is about how it's actually built.
How it's actually built has nothing to do with how they actually claim it's built. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. It's
Well,
like,
no,
no,
he's
it's
right. No,
outdated.
in a weird way.
But we still use it because we don't know how else to put this together.
Well, in a weird way, he's correct, right? In the way that guy that we covered about a week or two ago has got the Jenga blocks, right? And if Newtonian force of gravity is foundational, you can't just take it away. You have to maintain that, because it doesn't. The whole system falls apart if you don't have that. And once you've worked your way up the bullshit web, or worked your way out from the inside out on that bullshit web of lies, you get to a point where, well, yeah, we've spun this extra layer of an extra gravity, but we can't get rid of the first one, otherwise the web collapses.
You got to hold on to it, because you can't teach 5, 6, 7-year-olds about gravity being the curvature of space-time. You just make it very simple and just say, yeah, it's a magical force that's holding you on to the outside of this magical spinning water ball, and that's why you don't fall off. That's why they wait till much, much later, after you've already incorporated all this nonsense into you. That's when they tell you, nah, it's not really a force. It's actually the bending and warping of a conceptual medium that we've created. Right?
And just to be fair to Adam, I'd already looked at the math before I asked that question. So it was unfair of Nathan to bring him into that argument.
Not unfair at all. I mean, it's perfectly legitimate to discuss it because nobody's wrong. It's the heliocentric model that's wrong, in the respect that they've got a foundation of a force that stops you flying off a water ball that, when calculated, will leave you with a tiny little minuscule difference that would still be detectable on an accelerometer based on the maths that Adam has given me. However, your point is equally valid, which is to say that, what do you mean there's a force that's counteracting the throwing us off the water ball when it's not a force anymore? Well, that's where at the point in the discussion I'm like, I've got nothing. Well, yeah, because the heliocentric model's got nothing for me to arm myself with when it comes to that foundational block being superseded by Einsteinian bent fourth dimensional space-time versus a force that's holding you to the ball, which it is no more since 107 years. Shout out to Lumpy Gas in the Vacuum, says little support. Thank you very much indeed.
But don't
Maybe-
worry, some mainstream. Don't
Sorry.
worry about it. Some mainstream guy will come around and say, you know, when you're sitting on that couch and you get up from the couch, you're literally playing tug of war with the planet, and you've won.
Yeah, I mean, my coffee cup's basically accelerating right now.
Yeah.
Well,
All
yeah. Or you could go with Joe Rogan and say that gravity is the cause of your baldness.
Did he actually say that?
No, but Neil deGrasse Tyson implied it.
He would say some
To get
silly
straight,
shit.
Neil, I do vaguely remember this, I just can't remember the exact context. So Neil deGrasse Tyson inferred that I remember talking about it and saying, oh, he's picked on that particular aspect because he knows that Joe Rogan's self-conscious about it, so that he can make his point listened to or heard more by Joe by tying it to something that he's got a personal, you know.
Oh wait, was that the same episode where Joe Rogan actually went at him and said, "Why are you becoming so emotional about
Yes,
this?"
that's
When we were
correct.
talking about gravity, right?
Right, you got Neil deGrasse Tyson appearing a little flustered and on the back foot, defending something because Joe Rogan's questioned it, and in response to a tactic that is employed, as just detailed, about picking on Joe Rogan's hair loss, what he's ended up with is Joe Rogan spinning the table right back around and going, why are you behaving like this? This doesn't look good. And totally playing it cool. You know, in fact, it was, I'm sure I said this at the time as well, my respect level for Joe went up a little bit on that particular occasion.
Yeah, I think that was the best encounter of Neil deGrasse Tyson because he was showing his feelings. Like, it was almost like he was crying inside. Why don't you just believe me when I tell you what this gravity is, that I don't really know what it is, but just believe what I tell you about it?
I've seen him like
stop
that.
asking why.
I have seen him behave like that once, maybe even twice before. I can only think of one example off the top of my head. I think it was Katy Perry went on social media and started talking about flat Earth. The next thing, she's hauled before the court of Neil deGrasse Tyson to talk about it, and it was a similar sort of thing. He's there as like the white knight of heliocentrism. Yeah. Oh, you shouldn't be talking about this flat Earth thing, Katie.
He had to show up. It was like somebody put the bat signal out and said, "Oh wait, somebody's talking about this flat Earth stuff. Here's Neil smoking the grass to save the day and tell you, no." You got it all wrong. Let me steer you in the right direction.
Indeed, he do.
Well,
right.
He did that one other time. He did that one other time with Joe Rogan when Joe Rogan let it slip out that Neil deGrasse Tyson was begging him to come on the show to refute something about it.
Fair enough. Anyway, right, we're going to move on, if that's all good by you guys. Half an hour of housekeeping and chit-chat. Fun though it was. So today's video, as always, going to let this videographer, which is... Hold on, this can't be right. Oh, yes, it's Jaronism. No, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Hopefully, as always, in the vain hope that Jaron would pop our link, should he respond to anything we say in respect to this video. So let him know, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, and we'll cover his video now, hopefully imminently. In other words, there won't be loads of interruptions from Neil. But what we're covering is, or what they are covering, is Brian Leake versus McToon. So the show's called Debatism, and it's Jaron's foray into moderation between these two characters. And there was a particular section that we played in the pre-show, which had the link to Flatsoid published. But in this respect, it's Jaron that's going to get the love in the live show, I'm afraid, as much as Flatsoid was keen for me to talk about his video. Yes, check out the clipped video and edited work that Flatsoid did in respect to one particular discussion point when elevation angles came up. But yeah, you did get some love in the pre-show, but it's going to be Jaron for his efforts that's going to get the love in this regard, I'm afraid, Flatsoid. So yeah, go to Jaron, let him know, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Let's get into it.
Ask Toon your first question.
Yeah, Michael. So my first question is here just north of where they launched, in Jacksonville, Florida, They some people, I've actually tricked some people and pointed, since I learned perspective, I pointed to the horizon, when on a clear day when you could see an airplane fairly close to the horizon, and said, "Look at this space shuttle, check it out." And they was like, "No kidding, man," and it literally looks like a space shuttle on a clear day where you could see that far going straight up for a couple minutes. I'd like to ask, how do you explain that in your model? Why does the airplane look like a space shuttle in the distance going straight up in the air? And then when it gets overhead, it gets straight. And then as it sets on the other horizon, it looks like something going directly straight down. How do you explain our local, sphere of vision, for lack of a better word?
Well, it's not a sphere of vision, but how do I explain that? That is simple perspective. Every single part of the path that plane is taking can be explained easily with just solving triangles. And if you don't need to know anymore the actual process of doing it. There are online calculators for it. So when an airplane is, say, I don't know how far away you can actually see an airplane, but let's say it's 20 miles, right? So when an airplane is 20 miles away from you and it's 6 miles up, right, then you can solve a triangle, and you're going to say that is a very low angle, very small angle to the ground. When it's closer, say it's 10 miles away, that angle is going to be higher. When it's directly above you, well, of course, it's going to be straight up. And then as it passes over you, it's going to reverse that same line of that it did on the way there. And so that angle is going to progressively get smaller. So it is a simple application of a perspective, solving triangles. It's taught in middle school. In high school, typically you're taught to do it with actual sine, cosine, tangent. So.
He's a baller, ain't he?
He is indeed a baller. So,
yep.
Just for clarity.
Triangle has.
Just for clarity.
Triangle has a baseline.
Just for clarity, that flat Earth proof was brought to you by McToon. What McToon is detailing is an elevation angle. So let's just detail what is described but not defined. Measurement of elevation angle. Quote, elevation angle is the angle between the horizontal plane and the line of sight measured in the vertical plane. The reference direction, i.e. an elevation angle of 0 degrees, is a horizontal line in direction to the horizon. End quote. Radar tutorial, that's right.
Thanks, McToon.
Yeah. You want another one? So he's describing a plane, which is, I picked that, I've got about 20 of these. I'll just give you one more. The altitude angle, sometimes referred to as solar elevation angle, describes how high the sun appears in the sky. The angle is measured between an imaginary line between the observer and the sun and the horizontal plane the observer is standing on. End quote. Sustainable by design, altitude angle. That is what has just been detailed by McToon. I'll just say the last bit again. The angle, as detailed by McToon, is measured between an imaginary line between the observer and the sun, or in McToon's case, an aeroplane, and the horizontal plane the observer is standing on. So in order to take this measurement, you must be standing on a horizontal plane. So you'll need a flat Earth for what Toon has just described. Now we're cold, I've heard that clipped out by Flatzoid up until this point. I don't know, and have asked, but didn't get an answer, what the reaction was. Just for the record, our reaction, say it with me, is welcome to Flat Earth, McToon. Go ahead. Sent first.
Snacks in the back. Bathrooms to the left.
DJ's playing requests. Welcome to Flat Earth.
Yep. Oh, and smoke them if you got them.
It's on screen now, just so we're all clear what measuring an elevation angle would be looking like if you were measuring it to a plane at the point at the top of this triangle. If that was where the plane appeared to be in the sky, this is what your elevation angle measurement would be like. And as detailed in my descriptions, that's what an elevation angle requires, a flat plane.
It was kind of funny how the first thing the Glober went and said was, well, it's not a sphere. Like, yeah, we know.
Give you another one. The upwards angle from the horizontal.
He's trying to describe.
Oh, my bad. Go ahead, Ted.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. No, he's trying to describe the protractor. McToon is. He's admitting the flat Earth. So you got the horizontal baseline, you got the plane in the sky, and you're using a triangle. Well, we know what triangle is: 3 straight lines, right? All joined together for a triangle. And he even says, as it gets closer to you, it's this way. If it gets further away, if it's overhead. All right, so he's basically showing flat Earth proof. And he's saying, yeah, basically your sphere of vision, your local vision, is like a protractor. When the sun is at the horizon, it's at the lowest point. Okay, 0. And then when it comes directly above you, it's at your zenith. So the sun's directly over your head. And then as it goes away from you towards the west, then it's back to 0 or 180, a straight line. It's an admission that he actually had Jaron and him, and we did a show on this, and where he tried to use the same argument but come up with a different result, whereas in this debate, McToon is actually the flat earther.
Well, hold on. We don't know what Craig, his response is going to be yet, so we may be jumping the gun. He may be getting ready to detail all this to McToon. So
right,
we should
quick,
give him the opportunity.
We're going to jump topic real quick. It definitely.
Maybe. Let me finish.
My whole point in saying that, maybe I should have specified, was that it doesn't appear linear, and you don't see it. 20, maybe 25 degrees.
It's not linear. It's not linear.
Right.
It's an asymptotic relationship.
Nice to see that the clock up here is really, really effective. Like, stopped the tune interrupting really well. Really worked. Go on, Ted. My bad. You were trying to interrupt.
I was going to say.
He was rumpusing you.
Yes. Well, I wasn't quite finished. If you just go read the comments of the live show, which I posted a few for the panel here, but the rest of you in the audience, go read the comments of the live show. I haven't even seen the whole thing, but as I'm reading the comments, they're all decrying Jaron. Why don't you get someone who could debate this McToon guy? Why'd you bring this guy? So without even seeing the debate and looking at all the comments in the majority saying, what a poor showing from the flat earther, Brian Leake. And you just saw Nathan Oakley and the panel immediately catch what McToon was doing and nailed it. But no, not this other debate panel. They're never going to bring it up because of the comments would have been read different if it was brought up. And I haven't even seen the whole thing. I already know how it's going to end up. A disaster for the flat earth debater. That's how it's going to end up.
As soon as he started talking about the triangles, he should have hit him with at least a nice little welcome to flat earth with that. I do agree. Maybe pointed that out, like triangles. Really?
Well, we may be premature. He may be getting ready to say all this stuff.
Yeah, you're right.
We got to give him the opportunity to, but
right. So it's a squared relationship or whatever you want to call it, but it's pretty much. You said perspective can.
No, it's hold on. It's not. It's not squared.
If perspective could describe it, then we'd see it coming up over the horizon at 1 degree. That's not the case. We see it at about 18 to maybe 25, depending on how clear of a day it is. And for the first couple minutes, it literally appears like it's going straight up. So it's definitely nothing about it's linear, or logarithm or anything you want to call it. I'll give some examples.
Hold on.
That's okay.
Let me be clear.
Go ahead.
We've gone off track already here,
Yes.
but it's okay. I don't care. But I gave you the answer. It's not squared. It's not logarithmic. It's asymptotic. That's the word you're looking for.
Okay, you're
Use
going
that
with your question, Toon.
All right. My question.
Okay. Well, I hope that answers your question about whether or not it got addressed. I mean, Brian said that you've got a relationship, and then he gave it in a degree. Well, the degree itself is measured off a flat plane, but it didn't even get a mention. What's going on?
I do not know. This is embarrassing. I tried to stand up for them, and I'm being made to look like a fool now.
Okay. Got an issue with our view count, by the way. So this happened on one of my premiering streams about 10 days ago, something like that. And for some unknown reason, it jumped up to like 500 viewers for absolutely no reason. And then somebody came in that said that they were a Google chatbot, and they're like, sorry for the bug. And then within 3 minutes, it had gone down to the normal view rate for the second channel, like 40 or 50 people, maybe 60 people watching from like 600. But currently, this show's up to 330 live watchers, which must be a bug. So I don't think we've suddenly jumped up to 344 people watching, and it's fluctuating all over the place. So ignore the live view count, which is very irritating because it buggers up my statistics. But yeah, I'll moan about it if it persists. I'll have to contact YouTube about it. Anyway, please share the show nonetheless. We've probably only got about 100, 120 people watching, because that was the number just before I glanced and it started to shoot up for no reason. So even though we've got 120 people as opposed to 350 people watching, when the bug gets sorted, it will drop down to whatever we're actually really got, which is probably about 120 people. So massive thank you to the approximately 120 people, I'm going to guess, not that my stats will show that now, for sharing the show, because it was good to see that it made its way up to 120 at about the right moment that it should be at that number. So yeah, please share the show if you've just got here.
Maybe people are catching on.
It's just a bug. It's just a glitch. There's no way we've suddenly jumped from 120 people to 374 people watching. There's just no. Anyway, let's continue.
What is the bottom-up obstruction prediction formula for flat Earth?
What? Bottom-up obstruction formula for flat Earth? We're not making a claim about it, so it's immediate burden of proof reversal fallacy. Let's see if it's caught. We aren't making a claim about the horizon and how much it'll block stuff. You are. Why are you asking him for a calculation? It was your claim. Straight up fallacy of burden of proof reversal. My bad. Go ahead, whoever.
Interestingly enough, the calculator that he is invoking with bottom-up obstruction requires the Earth to be flat for that calculation. So
it does just that.
I wouldn't have got there today, but give it 10 more days, 2 more weeks of you repeating that when it gets to about the 10th occasion. That would be our response. In other words, oh, here's begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking titled Earth Curve Calculator, but actually it gives you the differential calculation for bottom-up obstruction when you calculate out the difference between eye level and surface level. See how this surface level's level? That would be the flat Earth. This reification of a globe beneath is meaningless.
Yep.
That's a bit advanced, though. No offence to Brian. At this point, I would only hope that he caught the burden of proof reversal, which is to say, why are you asking me for a calculator that shows how things are obstructed at the horizon when that's not being used as a flat Earth proof? It's being used as a globe proof. Therefore, burden of proof reversal fallacy.
Right, but at this point, I think most of the people on this panel could concede every point to the other person and still be able to detail how it needs a flat Earth, right? We've reached that point. We're setting an awful low standard for this individual, and I don't
speak
know
for
why.
yourself. I can't take this. No, I wouldn't have got there. I wouldn't have done that. I'm not going to pretend that I would have given that as my response, John. You, let's be quite clear, are at that stage. I, personally, am not yet. I love, it makes me smile, my own ignorance, right? The fact that I know damn well you are right, and all roads do lead to a flat earth. And for almost every argument, I'd be able to concede their position. And I say that future tense, you notice? You can do that today, John, but I'm not you. You're smarter than I am. What can I say? Take it as a massive compliment. Anyway, let's move on. Actually, by that standard, before we do move on, is it not unreasonable if I decry your standard as, well, that's okay for you, but not for me, therefore unreasonable to put that on Brian? But my standard of identifying the burden of proof reversal fallacy, how dare you not reach that standard, Brian? Am I not unreasonable to put my own standard by the standard I've decried yours, John?
Yes. It would seem so.
It would. I thought I'd point that out so that no one else in the comments points out my hypocrisy.
Non-existent? No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna say, well, there's a couple ways really to do this, man. The first.
What? Do what? Are you going to be proving a flat Earth with how much things disappear at the horizon calculator? I mean, it seems like you might be doing what you've suggested, John. We'll see.
First way we do is get the distance to the horizon. So I think what Toon's looking for, and like I said, I'm gonna try and keep this as honest as possible, is that 8 inches per mile squared is the measurement of the Earth, but has nothing to do with the hidden obstruction. So I'm gonna try and keep it real.
No, it does. As it transpires, yeah, it does. Yeah, there's a reason it would, quote unquote, if you're a glober, work. Well, on occasion it'll work. It might occasionally correlate with what you actually take a picture of and put it through the maths in Muppet Vision. But the reason it kind of works sometimes is because the validity's been taken from the measurements of a flat plane. And the derivatives occasionally work when you're extrapolating out that differential and vanishing point, or the point of dissolution, as I think John would phrase it. Correct, John?
Or information loss would be fine. I just keep it vague with information loss.
Yeah, which is what he's asking about. Where do you have stuff obstructed bottom up? A bit more specific, because that's what his globe needs to do. Hence the really clear identification of a burden of proof reversal fallacy, because he's incorporated his own damn claim into it. Clown. If you're going to reverse the burden, at least be a bit more subtle about it, Toon. Although what you didn't need to, did you? Let's be honest. Got away with it anyway. That's why you're not here. You're in front of whatever this name, Brian, is.
And what he's looking for is the formula. So, you can you have to start with the distance of the horizon, which is one way to do it is.
Where'd you get that? How do we get the distance to the horizon? Anyone? Well, I have to ask Brian, I guess.
Globe maths.
I mean, the apparent location where the sky meets the ground or sea, that's got a distance, has it?
Address.
I think what he's done, and it's kind of simple, is he's convoluted the angle of from your elevation to the horizon with the distance to the horizon at a certain altitude. And the calculator doesn't give you an accurate distance, as they'll always say refraction. So I don't know what he's actually doing.
I don't even know why he's asking him. What was the question? What's your bottom-up prediction on a flat Earth?
Yes.
Like, that doesn't even work on his globe. Why is he? Why is he asking? What is it on a flat Earth? Because when they tell us that on the globe, oh, it's refraction. It's not. It's the horizon's never there. It's never. We don't even see it. Like this is so silly.
To answer your question, Nathan, well, you need the radius.
What radius?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's why he should have said, I'm not making any claims here.
Let me get this straight. I just figured out what's going on here. This is just Twilight Zone stuff here. So far in this debate, McToon has given a flat Earth proof, and he's a glober. Brian is now making his way, fumbling through the curve calculator of a globe Earth. when being asked for a bottom-up obstruction calculator for a flat Earth, that's what's happening so far. I don't know if they've switched bodies.
I'll explain why.
Go on. Sorry.
I'll explain why. You see, Brian is retarded. That's
no
the
need.
problem.
1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. And then you.
That's very much the assertion from the globe. Why you?
That's why I said globe maths. That's what he's going to do.
So in response to
waiting.
So not only
right is demonstrable.
So not only has he not identified the fact that he doesn't need to be defending this, he doesn't make a claim about it. That's Brian, the flat earther, does not make a claim about this to prove a flat earth, to be defending it. Not only has he not recognised that as a burden of proof reversal fallacy, he's then launched into trying to answer the question, like he's got a responsibility to do so. He doesn't. He should have just identified the fallacy. Alternatively, and a lot more slick, would have been to take the refracted curvature method and point out that, semi-like Brian has done, point out the curve calculations and how they utilise a flat earth. Ergo, they are flat earth calculations by default, and just incorrectly ascribe the title curve calculator. They're not. But the differential will give you the, I keep forgetting what you say, vanishing point, the point of dissolution, point that you lose information. What he's asking in terms of bottom-up obstruction, flat earth calculation. So there is a more slick answer that eventually one day all of us here, not just refracted curvature, would be able to give in this circumstance. But he's giving the curve calculator. 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet is the distance to the geometric Earth curve edge. Why is he giving that as an answer? What's going on? Are we in Twilight Zone?
McToon's won now.
Yeah.
He has put himself as the flat earther, claiming that he's a glober, and he has the opponent in the position of the glober, who's actually a flat earther. So, yeah, McToon's going to win this.
He's already won. Do you remember when I used to say that back in the day that we used to argue in the curve calculator, we'd already lost, we just didn't know it at the time? The moment you start detailing anything from the begging the question proof of nothing perspective curve calculator, with the exception of the caveat, with the exception of refracted curvature's example where you show them how all roads lead to a flat earth, with that one exception, if you're dealing with the curve calculator full stop, you've already lost. Therefore, quite clever on McToon's part, not that clever, but reasonably so, he's got his opponent with a burden of proof reversal fallacy to start detailing his globe Earth calculations. Yeah, quite smart. I mean, it's just a fallacy, but the victim fell for it, Brian. So, yeah, props. Point to Toon.
Oh, you asked why again? Because Brian's retarded.
No need.
He's demonstrated it.
No need. Let's carry on.
But you take that and then you apply, let me see, I wrote it down. So X would equal A squared minus 2AD, where A is the obstructed height and D is the distance to the object, plus D squared plus R squared minus R. So basically, but you could also do it, I've seen a couple of things where you could do R plus H, where R is the radius, and I actually tried this, and it does that.
Why is he detailing a radius? What the hell is going on?
You're asking why again. I'm going to give you the same answer.
I've got to stop doing it. Stop. No, I'm not going to let you start that sentence.
Well, the flat earther is now claiming a globe, and the globe earther is now going to win because he's got the flat earth claims as his own now.
Yep.
It's over.
Yep.
R plus H, which is the radius plus the viewer height squared minus the radius of Earth squared in feet, and all that square rooted. It actually.
We've got a radius of Earth, have we? I mean, there was me thinking that you were going to be doing a good job for the flat Earth, Brian. Maybe proving it once in a while. I mean, your opponent did. You just didn't point it out. But now you are telling us about the radius of Earth. Oh, my God.
It does work if you do these numbers.
Oh, it does? With the radius? Where'd you get that? For it to work?
You know, the real way that most people would do it too was, I would say it'd be like,
most people would be calculating out how much obstruction we get at the geometric physical limitation of a horizon. When is this put into practical application? At what point in anybody's life did they go, you know what? I'm not going to get paid this week unless I calculate how much physical geometric obstruction of an Earth curve is blocking stuff in the distance. I mean, I'll get a paycheck if I don't do that. Got to get on with it. You show me where someone made this work, put it into practical application, found use for it. There isn't one. The only purpose in the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator. Notice the perspective hijacking bit in there, given that Toon's just detailed perspective, something that only works on a flat plane and is completely excluded from these calculations, being given to you by the flat earther, no less. Yeah, that begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator is only ever going to be proving that we've got a spherical Earth to assume in the first instance. So how's this helping the flat earther again? I'm at a bit of a loss. Don't answer that. See your mic open, John.
Wait a second.
Go on.
Wait a second. What if that bottom up obstruction was a boat at 4.5 miles? But you didn't know whether the boat was heavily laden or not. Where's that in the formula of R minus H plus H minus R?
Okay, I'll ask you, as a fair example, mathematically speaking, now tell me where in any of recorded history someone has gone, you know what, it's very important that I calculate how much that boat in the distance is above or below its, recommended level of buoyancy in terms of the line that you get of the water against the hull. There's a name for it. Anthony's again turning in his grave that he hasn't died in yet.
Plimsoll.
Plimsoll line. Thank you. Where the Plimsoll line is on that boat in the distance, we need to calculate that out quick sharp. It'd be really handy if I had an Earth curve thank God. It's right here. Tell me where that's been put into practical application ever for a use. Time's up. There is no practical application for this stuff. The only purpose in the calculator is to get anybody who's using it to assume we're on a sphere. And in this instance, the flat earther's doing it. He's talking about the curve calculator, therefore he's on a sphere. And Toon's won. That's the bottom line. John identified about 5 minutes ago, and he's absolutely right. Refracted curvature, rather. I have to... Too many Johns. If Morgile turns up, it's going to be a right mess again.
G over O to the OGL.
Someone trim that out. That's epic. I want to hear that again. That was a rap in itself. Gonna put the beat to that shit.
Most people would do it too. Was I would say it'd be like it'd be G over O to the OGL times E. That's the way most people do it.
Boom, brother.
Where G equals.
You're rapping like a mofo.
Google.
G to the O to the OGL.
Oh, you're good for a laugh, Brian.
The OO equals Earth curve calculator. And then the LE, of course, is type in your height and your distance, man. So that's how most people do it. I'm just joking, man.
Okay, your question, Brian. Go ahead.
That was his question. His question to him was, what's your Earth curve obstruction flat Earth calculator? That was essentially what his question was, to incorporate the burden of proof reversal fallacy. And he answered it by saying, here's my Earth curve calculations with a radius that works. Good job, Brian.
All right. So number two is.
All right, hold on, Jaron. Write this down for next time. You need to give one like quick answer back.
Okay, we can do that
next one. Yeah.
We'll do that.
Sorry, what the hell just happened? Did Toon just
He's
give
getting
you
instructions.
an order? You subservient little globe cuck. I'll get right on it for you, Toon.
He said, take a note.
Did you get that note down, Jaron? Did you get it down? Type it up for me, would you?
Yeah. Do you want to give your answer? Well, we'll do it next time. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just say all that was based on the globe. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
So,
Yep.
in summary, I win. Yeah, we would agree with you, Toon, based on your burden of proof reversal fallacy and your ability to get your opponent to detail your argument after giving us a flat Earth proof that wasn't highlighted as proving a flat Earth. I'd agree. I'd say you just need to reiterate your point that everything he detailed takes place on a globe. Yeah, that's right. The begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator rides again, and the victim was Brian, the flat earther in this instance. Yeah, that's correct.
No, go ahead and respond to that. Was that what you were looking for, though? Like the 8 inches per mile squared?
I was looking for the flat Earth formula, not for the globe formula. He gave me the globe formula.
Oh shit! If you want a flat Earth formula,
yes, that was the question. It included 4 flat Earth in the question.
He misheard him, right? So, might be eating my words here, right? If I'm going to have to eat a humble pie after this, fair enough. If Brian now identifies, well, why the hell would I be answering that? I'm not making a claim that there's bottom-up obstruction proving a flat Earth.
For flat Earth?
Brian, you goofball. You goofball.
So Toon now chuckling and laughing, hoping that he won't catch the burden of proof reversal fallacy.
Oh, it didn't say nothing about flat Earth, because I've already gave you my formula. It's 90 minus A over 90 times D times point A times 100 of A minus 1/2 A, where D is the triangulated distance to the sun or star, whatever you're measuring.
This is the bottom-up obstruction.
Why is he interrupting? If that gets noted.
Yeah,
when something is 40 miles away, how much will be obstructed? Oh my God!
Wait a second.
Ask your question, Brian. Go to the next one.
I'll tell you what. I put in a 30-second video to explain this, bro. I thought we were going to be honest. You're a veteran. I consider you a veteran, but if I got to re-show you this, I got
a question now.
Right.
Yeah, hold on. What's up with this triangulated distance to the sun? What the hell is that?
Oh, that's Brian's answer to the bottom-up obstruction calculator on a flat Earth. That's his response to it.
Yeah, which is a dishonest answer, and then he's calling McToon dishonest. Not.
Yeah, the incoherent non sequitur was then followed up by a claim of dishonesty. That's correct.
Brian,
yeah. Well, he interrupted me during my formula, so I'm just saying. He's what exactly are you asking for, man?
So let's get it straight, Brian, just from our perspective as an audience member. You've moaned that he's interrupting your formula, and now, given that you've moaned about the interruption to your formula, you're clarifying what precisely he's asking, even though you've given a formula as an answer to a question you don't understand. So what did the formula mean? If you didn't fully understand what he was asking, the formula you gave was not in answer to that question. It can't have been at this stage. It's just, you've got to keep up with what people actually say, right?
He was looking for the bottom-up obstruction equation for a flat Earth, but let's move on to the next one. This is what...
Or identify it as a burden of proof reversal fallacy. Alternative, we could just move on. You know, give him the win that he did perfectly justified to get.
What I didn't want to do is get stuck on something. He didn't. That's fine. We didn't get an answer for that.
What does he think? Wait. What does he think I was giving him? Just like
you gave me the globe formula.
No, I didn't give you the globe formula. 90 minus A over 90 times D times point A times 1/2 A is not the globe formula, bud.
What's that formula do?
I'm sure that's a refraction formula. Like I said, every flat earther might not agree with this, but this is just a pretty much a distance formula, and then from there you figure the obstruction.
Okay, we can do this in the topics if you want, but move on to your next question, Brian.
I hate to do this. Why? Well, why? I mean, as much as Jaron wants to keep the show flowing, Toon's winning. Why would Toon want to move on from this? At this point, no. If it were me and I was Toon, as a Glober, I'd be like, no, hell no. I want to stay here indefinitely. Let Brian...
No.
permanently
No,
describe the curve calculator to the audience. My bad. Go ahead, John.
No, you don't want to stay there. You've won. You want to move on to another win. Because if you stay in this win, somebody may figure out that you didn't actually win.
I'd like to hear more about the refraction formula.
Well,
No, Toon got it out that that's a globe Earth calculation. That's all he needed to do. Now they can move on.
Yeah.
Please, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not trying to not answer questions, just so y'all know.
Gotcha.
So, hold on a second, man.
So
He's
now
not trying to not answer questions.
Now we don't have what? There's no question on the table now, right? I'm not kidding. There is no question currently on the table. Am I wrong?
1 second.
Yeah. Well, there is a question of whether he understands how grammar and double negatives work, but we can argue that, I guess.
What are we on? His second one?
It's yes.
Did I say 90 minutes? I meant 190 minutes.
You gotta love Brian. He's always Brian. He's always the same.
See this shit-eating grin slapped all over McToon's face? That's the same grin he had when he was debating Jaren. Yeah, winning.
You gotta love him.
All right, we'll get you the question here eventually.
He just like, oh, just a second. Then he walks away.
Yeah, I don't, man. I'm sorry, man.
It's okay. We're ready.
Sorry about that.
It's so good.
Okay, number 2, man.
Okay, we're ready.
Yes.
Sorry, what was that?
The way he just says it's okay, we're ready. The way I don't know. It sounds Jaren and Toon are like really buddy. It just sounds like that to me. I don't know. Maybe it's nothing.
Sounds like they're secretly buddies. Is what it sounds like. I've been thinking that since I saw that time with McToon.
Finally catching on, Chocolate?
Well, hold on. You know, when I was on McToon's channel and supposedly having a debate with Ruhif that was never allowed to happen, I was laughing at them the same way he's laughing at Mr. Leake here. Because I knew I'd won, you know. That's what that laugh is. You know, it's over.
Yep.
Yeah, now it's turned into condescending. Just look at him. He's all look at him.
Gotta love Brian. Gotta love
you know, like that. What the hell is that, bro? What kind of debate is this?
Number 2 is, let's say, how would you, with an auto level, pushing it to its limit, pushing it to about, let's say, 100, 150 yards per shot, how would you lay out a straight line?
All right. Let me read what I was sent, just because I answered what was sent to me. If level is curved, using an auto level and pushing the distance limits of 100 yards per shot, how would you lay out a straight line on land 1 mile long, your choice of elevation? My answer...
I like it. As much as Toon's our opponent, right, what Toon has just done there is a real power play. So clearly, like when I discussed stuff with Jaren, I, in advance, sent him essentially the talking points that I would be covering. So he's, in advance, knows what's going to come. There's no surprises. Now, what Toon's just done is he's taken the question as phrased by his opponent and rephrased it in a much more assertive manner. Now, you might think, well, why would you want to reiterate the question? It's obviously, it's a question against him, so it can't be to his it can't be for a win, right? It's going to be to his detriment, surely. Well, no, because now McToon owns this question, right? It's a real power move. As much as I hate giving admiration to the opponents in respect to this, he's basking in this victory right now, right? And he's just saying, I own this entire show now, right? Not only are you going to be asking me a question that I've got to respond to, I'm going to do a better job of asking it than you. That's what Toon's just done, right? Fair enough, Toon. You know, credit where it's due. If you're going to take the piss, you might as well do it to this extent.
The answer is I would hire a professional surveyor that has experience doing it and knows how and knows the process, and ask them to plot out a 1 mile level line at constant elevation. Then either my
spit my drink out. Constant what now? Excuse me. sorry, you'll need a flat Earth for that. Constant
Level
elevation.
line. That could also mean curved. Did you know the level line is like a circle?
No, I'm afraid not. As detailed earlier, when I would, off the back of John's genius, refracted curvature's genius, in a hypothetical setting, have postulated that the calculation I was asked for in respect to a bottom-up obstruction on a flat Earth would be the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking in name only Earth curve calculator, and explain how the horizontal line described as surface level, well, that's level, Arwin. That's not bending away at 8 inches per mile squared. In terms of the geometry and how it functions, that principle has to remain true, that level's level.
It can be a curved line as long as it curves in a straight way.
Right, exactly. And hey, if you can do celestial navigation on the globe according to Jaren, then I bet you can do that too.
Okay, so if you vote Arwin and Chocolate are wankers, type 1.
Myself, or if the budget allows, ask them to also do a calculated.
In a roundabout way, I'd have actually given a similar answer, which is to say, I'm not a surveyor, right? Why are you deferring to me? Have I made a claim? Have I been using? Because the first thing I was going to say before Toon answered was, has Toon got experience with auto levels? Is this his field? Has he been out there in the field showing on video how he utilizes this tool? It's like, fair enough, it's just a back and forth between two people that don't know each other very well. But surely the question should be targeted at things that you know you're going to get a reasonable response rather than a deference to a surveyor when you're asking a question about a tool a surveyor would use, right? So not unreasonable response there, Toon. I've got to be honest. I'd have given something similar, which is, have I made a claim about it? That would have been my response. And Toon's kind of elaborate version of that is to say the same. Well, he shouldn't have to answer this, but he is, like Brian did. He's chose to answer it. And so, well, I'd go to a surveyor. But when you're talking about constant elevation, where are you going to get that on a sphere? You won't. You'll need a flat Earth for that.
Elevation above that.
Above that constant level?
Based on the
flat Earth that you'll need, stuttering, stammering, screwball. Yeah, you'll need a flat Earth for that. That's why he's stuttering. You see, we pick up on these things on Flat Earth Debate. When your opponent starts doing that, struggling for that next word that he's going to use, there's a reason. It's because the word that's missing in that stutter is flat Earth. The words.
In that moment, he's remembering that time where he admitted, where you got that beautiful little shorts clip from, where he admitted that you actually require a flat Earth. And it just, when he's stuttering, he's remembering that moment. I bet.
Yeah, well, he knows where he's going to need the flat plane when he was under his control as an answer to a question with a timer running. He can talk all about the elevation angle without mentioning the flat baseline that is a necessity to do that and how it's in relation to the ground, because that's what they're debating. Well, that's going to require a flat Earth, but he's in control of the answer and he can move on to his question afterwards. In this respect, he's stammering because he's on the back foot. He's in control of the question, but he knows he's actually got to refer to something. Well, that's a flat plane. He knows it. We know it.
Known radius and how much it should be above that to be tangent.
Sorry, above a known radius when you've got a constant level. No, you don't have a constant level when you're above a particular part of a radial value, because that would be a drop from one position to the next. Well, that's not a constant level. No wonder he was stuttering and stammering. He's got to take that flat Earth that he stuttered his way around not saying and infer that it's in regards to a radial value? Well, how does that translate to a constant level? It doesn't. He's a lying toe rag. Let's see if Brian catches this lie.
To that point. So, for example, at 1/4 of a mile, which is 4.5 football fields, the second point would be 1/2 of an inch above that measured level.
Sorry, how can it be in reference to a radial value if it's above a constant level? So you've dropped in that it has something in regards to something that, if it has a radial value, would be dropping away from one position to the next at a rate of 8 inches per mile squared. But yet we've got a constant level to reference this. That doesn't make any sense, Toon. What does make sense is the constant referencing of level. which is a necessity.
At 1/2 of a mile, it'd be all of 2 inches. And at a full mile out, it would be 8 inches above the level line. Now, the difficulty...
So you'll need a level line to make this assertion. So what we would have done, refracted curvature, John, he's now doing. So he's now taking ownership of this curve calculator as actual curve. Well, it is in name only. But where we would have stolen this thunder, you would have, John, probably I wouldn't have caught it. You'd have said, well, no. This level that you've just inferred 3 or 4 times without it being picked up on, well, maybe there's a timer running. That level is the surface level. That's what it's labelled as in this calculation he's now divvying out. Much better than his opponent, who's a flat earther, did a moment ago, weirdly. But nevertheless, he's using that calculation. Well, that calculation's going to require level, as he's detailed himself. Where are you going to get that? Yeah, you'll need a flat earth for it, won't you? Quick shout out to Lumpy Gas in a Vacuum for the super chat. He says, stay up to date on flat earth debate. Indeed, I'm going to give that a little heart. Yeah, subscribe today if you've not done so already. Still got crazy numbers watching. I'm sure, as I say, based on the chat rate, that's definitely not the case. But there we go. I'm going to have to contact YouTube. Anyway, nevertheless.
Is how would you, from a whole mile away, see that 8 inches elevation change and just eye it and know how it's useful? I don't know how that could be useful, but at least
for proving a flat earth. The difference in elevation as measured with respect to sea level, that's how elevation changes are measured. Yeah, the minuscule amount that we have here in England, it's not a great deal. Yeah, but that elevation change is with respect to a horizontal plane of reference. Yeah? Now, your inference that you've got the differential between eye level and sea level, in this instance, when talking about earth curve calculations, to derive out an 8 inches per mile squared drop of a physical geometric horizon, what is it? No Atmo Day?
It's
Go on. Oh, that was them.
It's a little better version than Brian Mullen's goofy thing where he thinks that he can build a perfectly rigid structure.
So to get this straight, you would lay out your straight line, and you said you would raise above your horizontal 2 inches.
No, you got in the first sentence. You got it wrong. I would hire somebody that has experience doing it to lay out a level.
That's why I did that. So when it comes to a tricky question, so you're going to do it with respect to the horizontal, was the question. No, I talked about getting an actual surveyor deflecting the question. Yeah, shitbag.
Level line, not a straight line. Level is a curve on the surface of the globe.
Whoa. Level is a curve? So let me get it straight. Maybe if I qualify this particular level a bit more with your own words, Toon. What about a constant level? Is that a curve? No, you see earlier when I pointed out how non-curved levels are, now you're just going to drop into this discussion that curves are levels and levels are curves? They're not. They're fundamentally different, Toon.
That's why I asked specifically for a straight line, because they're going to give you the same thing. You can tell them level or straight. You're going to get the answer.
Is Jaron going to put a stop to this? We'll see.
Well, I'll give you the answer again. Step 1.
Did you hear what Brian said? Hold up. Brian just said you could draw it level or straight, as if to say there is a distinction to be made if level is conforming to a sphere.
I see.
Brian's dead.
So Brian's fell victim to the assertion that level is actually curving. Okay.
Professional surveyor.
We don't need to repeat it. We don't need to
lay
repeat it.
out a level.
He can go back and watch it again if he didn't hear it the first time.
All right,
so
got it.
Go ahead. Your question, number 2.
All right. How far away does the sun need to be to set over flat Earth?
Okay, now you said...
sorry, what the hell with the burden of proof reversal fallacies? You mean when you assert that the horizon is a physical geometric sphere edge that obstructs the sun at sunset, that's a Earth curve claim you make, but you're asking him about his distances to his setting suns that he's never made a claim about flat Earth with. So, strike 2, burden of proof reversal fallacy. Turning out to be a bit of a one-trick pony there, McToon. Do you just know how to reverse the burden? Is that the only fallacy you're capable of?
Well, why would he need to have another trick if that one works?
Sorry. He needs a scattergun with that, of course, right before the other catches on. My immediate answer would be 3 centimeters. I would just immediately say that as the answer.
Well, no,
ridiculous.
Why invent a new trick when that one's working so well?
Oh, okay,
well, this is retards or us, because he's asking a question. McBugger Eater's asking a question, that an objective question based on a rhetorical device, because the sun never sets on a globetard or a flat Earth.
Yep.
Said flat Earth. Okay, there's nothing about flat Earth. You're sitting there mucking with me and shit, and there says nothing about flat Earth in your first question.
Yeah, good job. First props you're going to get in this critique. Although you didn't specifically say it, that's essentially Brian identifying the burden of proof reversal fallacy. Props. See if it lands.
Nothing at all about flat Earth. It says what's the Earth curve? What's the formula for hidden height? There's no hidden height on a flat Earth as far as.
Oh my God, he's now one question behind. Is he stuck in time travel or something? Like that was the previous question.
I told you why.
That was the previous question, Brian. But ironically, your response.
Maybe it just registered for him though. That's right. I'm not even in an insulting way. I'm just saying, like maybe he's realizing after this burden of proof reversal that he just had another one he just had to deal with.
The fact that you said not in an insulting way makes it so much more insulting, Chocolate. You have no idea.
No, that's because Neil came on the back and laughing.
I know people were laughing.
Neil. It was Neil.
But anyway, I was trying to give you a formula, and anyway, so
okay, go.
I'm going to refer to the way you answered as just is there is no obstruction.
So you're saying the sun never sets?
The sun sets.
No, that wasn't what he said. You've paraphrased his answer into a completely different answer, but check it out. It seems like Brian's going to gobble it back up, his paraphrased re-answer that he didn't give.
You're going to use, Sharon, I don't even want to, just play my FE.
What the hell? Just hold your own, just answer, just form a coherent sentence.
Sunset video.
Okay.
I just got flustered. He didn't expect the feedback to be so incorrect. So he's literally getting flustered. That's what I'm hearing.
We still have the clock going. FE sunsets. All right, here comes.
Yeah.
No, he's getting flustered because McToon is dancing circles around him right now.
Exactly. He's not getting flustered. He's constantly flustered. Didn't you hear what QE said before? I heard you.
Sorry, I wasn't there last half hour before 15 minutes.
This is a white light and a green light about over 100 feet, and the door just closed to a warehouse. And letting cold air in, and the white light disappears right in front of the camera. And then the green light disappears. Now, here's the way they describe refraction. It ain't quite, I'm not seeing shit raising up. This is the sugar tank experiment, but
and this
what
proves
the hell?
And this proves a flat Earth because
for anybody who hadn't seen it, with just atmospheric lensing or magnification, you have the sun dropping and setting and not changing.
Atmo, what now?
Yeah,
These guys are so far behind, man. I can't take it.
Okay.
I'm going to jump out the window.
Let me just explain something to people watching. Okay. Rob Skiba went out and tried to explain or investigate what we actually observe when we observe the horizon. He gets on a boat and he travels towards, I think it was Chicago, and watches the skyline do what he described as atmospheric lensing, right? He gets closer to it and it doesn't suddenly come into view from behind a curve. It just changes how it looks as he gets closer to it, right? As you'd expect, it gets a bit bigger as well. Okay. Now, a lot of the people on the panel have gone through that kind of journey of discovery where you understand that there's a positive claim being made that would infer that we've got in this case, geometric horizon blocking Chicago. So you go, well, what's actually happening here? So they go out and they investigate. Rob, in this instance, goes out on his boat and investigates and so shows his findings. Now, that is fascinating stuff, but it in no way represents a positive claim from a flat earther, a proof of a flat earth, a debunking of a globe. It doesn't do anything. It's just one man, in this instance, Rob Skeebird, going out and having a look a bit at how the world works, how he can perceive the world, having a little look, basically. But when this garbage is offered back up, like it's some explanation for what is essentially 7/6 of the curve calculator, when they say refraction, what is this achieving? Number one, you are not making a claim about any of this, Brian. You don't need to go through this with him. Because he's got a claim of refraction, make him defend it. Don't bark into your nonsense waffle about what you think's going on, when at the end of it, if you're 100% right, let's just assume you are 100% right in this nonsense waffle. Did it prove a flat earth? No. Did it prove that space was fake? No. Did it debunk the globe? No. Did it show that your version of this refraction nonsense waffle isn't their version of 7/6 in a calculator? Because that's where you're trying to go with this. But you're not summarising it in the way I've just summarised it. Not that this would be an argument I've ever made or would make. It doesn't achieve anything. What it does it is leave the door nice and wide open for him to now describe the refraction Brian's detailing with his nonsense waffle as merely 7/6 of a radius value on an assumed spherical Earth. That's all he's done. He's opened the door to 7/6 of a radius terrestrial refraction on a globe. So all this is. Doesn't prove a damn thing. Go ahead, John.
Yep, that was what I was about to say. It is useful for McToon, though, because he's introduced the dichotomy now that McToon is, I would think, is getting ready to cram in his face.
A dichotomy that's win-win. If in every single respect of where this discussion will go forward, unless he's a complete drongo, Toon cannot lose. Because even if, in the unlikely circumstance that Brian manages to win the audience over with this particular point he's making, does he, as I've just listed, prove a flat Earth, debunk a globe, debunk space, debunk Earth turning? It doesn't do any of those things. So even in the unlikely circumstance that Toon does really badly here, unlikely, what's he lost? Is it suddenly going to be the circumstance that Brian turns around and goes, there you go then, flat Earth proven? No, he's not going to get to do that. Or does he get to turn around at the end if in the unlikely circumstance that he gets to win this point that he's making, he gets to turn around and say, well, globe debunked then? Nah. Now, there's been no real mentions of the globe or anything to do with it, like I say, other than leaving the door open to terrestrial refraction for Toon. So he cannot lose after this setup from Brian. My God.
And but that's the dichotomy he's put forth, is it's either my nonsense or it has to be a globe. That's how he's presenting this.
Yeah, my nonsense or it has to be a globe isn't really a flat Earth win.
In size. I thought we were going to keep this honest. But you see the sun setting right in front of the camera, not change size on a flat Earth. There's two ways that can happen, dude. With just cold air, with just a little magnification in the atmosphere. I see where this thing's going already, man. So I'm going to act accordingly, man.
Yeah, I have a question. So then you're saying that the sun is literally on the ground? Because in this demonstration, the sun, your analog sun is literally on the ground here. So you're saying that the sun is literally touching the ground in reality?
Nope. Did the sun touch the ground? Did the sun touch the ground in either example?
Yeah, and your analog is right on the ground there. So, okay.
No, I'm saying, did it actually touch the ground, though, in either example?
But, yeah, it sure looked like it was.
Did it reach zero when it was just sitting above the ground?
And now we're into debating back and forth on a non sequitur. Could have got a better win out of this Toon.
In front of the
camera. It looked like your analog setup that you had there had the sun right on the ground.
Here's a crap. You could have taken the win.
Did it ever hit zero?
Maybe we should debate about whether or not your analog reached the ground or not for 10 straight minutes. I mean, this is very valuable stuff we're debating about here.
His IQ hit
Did
zero.
whatever hit zero? Did whatever hit zero?
Did either example approach zero?
Did what approach zero?
The sun example, the white light in the first video, or the picture of the sun, or the flashlight in the second video. Did either of them touch the ground or zero? The horizon is zero.
Because if they did, it would prove the Earth can't be a globe. Not that that's a good argument. Or if it didn't, it would prove that the Earth has to be flat. Because, you know, this has to be an example that actually proves something. Otherwise, you're just buying into his false dichotomy reversal of the burden. You're achieving nothing. Oh, this is so frustrating.
Yeah, it sure looked like you had placed the light, or whoever had done it, had placed the light right on the ground.
Like it,
yeah.
But it didn't, though, right? It didn't, though. But it did disappear, though, right?
Because
what is
go on.
What Toon's doing is now highlighting Brian's weird dichotomy, right? He's highlighting how dumb it sounds. And then it's going to open up for the 7/6R. That's getting ready to come. But first he has to show how nonsensical the claim is from Brian. That way, when he puts his claim forward, it has to be taken as true.
Yeah. So what I'm getting is that you think that the sun is literally basically right on the ground for flat Earth. That's what I'm getting.
What I'm getting is that the sun right in front of your direct line of sight disappeared. There's two examples of how it could work on a flat Earth, plain as day, without the size changing on top of that.
Okay, let's go to step one. Step one, put the sun on the ground. Step two, it disappears.
Above zero.
Okay, we got it. We got above zero. What's the who's up? Brian, I think you're asking your third.
No, I think it's his okay, if it's my third question, okay. My third question is okay, so how in your model, and I know you have an explanation, man. Let's settle back down, Toon, man. I ain't trying to get all shitty, man. I really ain't. I'm sorry I misinterpreted the first question. It threw me off a little bit, man, but let's keep this real, dude. I mean,
okay, ask the next one.
So next question is, so how would you explain in your model, you know, what would it take for the crosshair to block half a mountain and appear below the water horizon, as exampled by myself and by George Nawchek's Ice Lake measurement, and by Jessica Kozlowski and Tim Osmond's Great Salt Lake Strong's Knob measurements at like 7 foot above the Great Salt Lake. So it's not that rare. But how does the globe model explain that?
So to be clear, you're saying that I'm not familiar with your particular example for you. And I didn't look up Jesse and Tim's. I have seen George Natchik's thing. So you're saying, what you're asking is, how is it that if you're a several feet above the water, that the crosshairs can be below the horizon, right?
Right. So just doesn't incorporate any globe debunking or flat Earth claims of proof or evidence in the question. It's just a random question about how things appear in crosshairs. I see. So what will this achieve precisely? Anybody got a clue where this achieves something in terms of a globe debunking or flat Earth proof?
Well, it's starting to prove to me that they don't really care to disprove the globe or prove a flat Earth. It seems like they're like, oh, just keep the show going, and if we have to lose the argument continually and get strawmanned and not pick up on it, to achieve that, then great. Let's just blunder our way through this.
Well, you know, at this point, if McToon wants to invoke atmospheric refraction and then explain it using that, where he introduced that dichotomy earlier, he could just like really crush it here. I don't know if McToon's smart enough to do that, though. So we'll see.
That's up to
I
you.
like how the great...
Sorry. No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, I like how the Great Salt Lake observation pops up again. Like it's famous or something.
Shout out to Unitox Femi, who says, elevation profile of any land can open your eyes. Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the first things that sort of opened our eyes to how Earth is actually measured flat. When you do an elevation profile on Google Earth, it shows you how much the topology will vary with respect to sea level, and gives it in a plus or minus value, which is very, very limited. If you can draw the whole line across the whole of the surface of Earth, you'll see that there's a very limited deviation from that horizontal plane of reference that is the flat Earth we're standing on. So yeah, elevation profiles, Google Earth, check them out. Earth is flat.
We don't
Yeah, I
see in
remember looking at
perspective the
that.
way you was trying to pass it off earlier, right?
No, yeah. So the way, and I mean, this is a great example. So, when light goes through a gradient, a pressure or temperature gradient, it curves, and that curve has a radius.
Hold on, let's hear the whole. Just don't interrupt him. I want to hear this. This is a full bait and switch, and I'm going to rewind it. Just save your interjection to the end. Now you've interjected, I might as well just summarize it so I don't have to do it at the end. He's about to present the idea that what John's been egging Toon on metaphorically to do is use 7/6R, that's terrestrial refraction. But in order to do so, he's going through the motions of the bait and switch. Tell the opponent that light gradients or air gradients or whatever he babbles on about now is 7/6R. It isn't. 7/6R is 7/6R. That's terrestrial refraction. But he needs you to believe that that's light bending. When it's not. It's a mathematical derivation of a sphere value based on an R value in Muppet Vision, in their maths, that unbends Earth. It doesn't have anything to do with air or light or refraction. But it's called...
Yeah, you're jumping way too far ahead. No, this is... he's going to get Brian to go along with his definition, McBooger Eater's definition of refraction first.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And his refraction definition will be about light. Yeah, anyway.
If that radius is larger than the radius of the Earth, then it will make something appear slightly higher. If that radius is smaller than the radius of the Earth, then it can cause distant objects to appear higher, significantly higher. So, for example, the horizon can appear higher. And I personally measured in March of this year, I went with this NIST certified thermometer to a lake near me, and I measured the vertical temperature gradient. And at 1 to 1.5 meters, it was a full degree Celsius temperature change. For the radius of the curve of the light to be the same as the radius of the Earth, you need 1 degree in 10 meters. And this was significantly less than 10 meters. So that's causing the arc of the light ray to bend significantly more.
See, I totally called it. I totally called it. So here's me with a scientific instrument that's going to measure how much you've got a differential as you raise in altitude. And that differential is refraction. That's what you need for refraction. And if you go up a certain amount, it would give it you in a different derivation of R. He doesn't give 7/6R, right? But he's alluding, like Mick West on his curve calculator does, to the notion that the rate of terrestrial refraction at 7/6R or any derivation thereof has anything to do with light, air pressure, how much it changes. There's nothing to do with any of those things, merely a derivation of R. 7/6 in standard form, that's a derivation of an R value. It unbends the surface of the sphere in the maths. That's all it does. Sod all to do with what he's alluded to with his little instrument that he says he's going to measure something. What, therefore, terrestrial refraction at a rate of 7/6R in standard form has anything to do with your measurements there, Toon? Wrong.
Hold on. That's not fair. We shouldn't like explain it yet, because the magic trick ain't done, because they've set it up. Brian set it up in a dichotomy where Toon exposed that the sun's not hitting the ground in Brian's example that he was trying to show. Now he's setting it up in his example with atmospheric, whatever the hell that is, just made up nonsense. But he's getting ready to solidify that. And the only place Brian will be able to go is to say both examples are wrong.
Beautiful birds. Beautiful birds in the background. Love it.
I want to agree with QE. I don't know what this refraction is he's describing, whether it's got 1 degree temperature difference over 1 meter or 10 meters. That's not refraction.
No, it isn't. But this is the bait and switch.
But in McToon's defense, he's not the one that invoked models. Brian is. So this is Brian's fault.
They're trying to proceed with the term refraction, meaning whatever McToon's wanting it to mean in this situation, i.e. terrestrial refraction. Fundamentally, he implies that light particles bend, take a bent path. It's not refraction. It's a change in direction.
So that's how you can see things above the crosshairs, is because refraction can raise things that much in certain conditions. And so, for example, George Natchick's Lake example is a great one, because like I did, we know that at the bottom portion near the surface of the lake, that temperature gradient is pretty steep.
Okay, McToon, your third.
Want to add another point?
All right, my third one.
It's refraction as we traverse from one medium into another. The false straw man or equivocation here is that a temperature difference in the same medium will invoke refraction. This is anti-flat Earth physics.
No, that's not fair.
It's not explaining it.
Can you not interrupt John blaming Brian, please? Go ahead, John.
Brian is the one that introduced the idea of refraction on in the same medium in the last question. It's not fair to put that on McToon now. You got to put that on Brian.
You can sit it on whatever shoulders you like. I don't care. Still not the right definition.
Come on, guys.
I was talking, mate. You go and come on in the middle of my sentence doesn't mean you didn't overtalk me.
Go ahead.
And the point was to me, but go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Darwin.
Okay, well, Brian didn't bring up this crazy vertical gradient thing that the anti-flat earthers are just assuming works somehow, not explaining how that works. It's just like, oh, that's the conditions that'll make it work. Oh, really? So could you draw a diagram of how that works then?
Hey,
how is that refraction working?
Fine, you're both right. You're both right. Stop. Okay, yeah, it's 6 of one and a half a dozen of the other. And yes, John, it was Brian that brought it up first and started to invoke bullshittery when it came to quote-unquote refraction with atmospheric lensing. Atmo what now? Nevertheless, Toon then responded with his version of his bullshit, with his refraction, which isn't 7/6R terrestrial refraction or refraction of any description, Snell's law in terms of Adam's description. Moving on. Adam, go ahead.
You got a point.
Adam.
Yeah. Well, that is the point. We're now at a point of a totally non-Socratic, confused debate it can only be confused at this point. They're both using the word refraction. As far as I can see, neither of them in the correct sense. Both have their own meaning of what's occurring and the implications. So this is doomed to failure now because it won't be Socratic, this discussion.
Right.
Right, so, but in the case of any tie, the globe or consensus always wins.
Yes, correct. It's a win-win. Yes, that's correct. If bullshit refraction from Brian isn't defended satisfactorily, and bullshit refraction from Toon is not defended satisfactorily, then the default outcome is globe wins. Correct.
What is the derivative of x squared with respect to x?
I mean, I give a couple different answers because I didn't seem like enough information, but the basic answer would be 2x or 1/x squared. Or if
2x.
you want to, if you want to take it a little bit further, though, if we're talking about derivatives, just for anybody who doesn't know, I'll make it this quick, Jaron, is where you're talking about the change. Basically, when we talk about it, we're talking about the change in the slope, like to a tangent or something like that. So if you want to say, if you want to give it a...
Well, that's what we would say, is it? No. You speak for yourself. We don't make reference to tangents. Globe heads do.
Value like a squared.
Pardon, Arwin?
Just what is he doing? Why is he like he's just letting them pull like all the way to their ball hell nonsense. Why is he just letting it do that? I don't
Because
get
he's an idiot.
No need.
I already
That
told you.
means
No need.
it's a constant, which means it's a straight line. So we could just use rise over run, right? But if it's if you want to give it a limit, that's why I was kind of expecting something harder, like a limit. Like if he'd gave me 2, I'd say as 0 approaches 2, you know, then I could have done something with it. It was so simple. I thought he was trying to trick me, but I don't know.
It's not a trick question.
Right. I don't know.
It's really just 2x.
Right. 2x.
That's all you had to say.
Okay, so we are good. Everybody asked all 3 questions, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so Brian, you get to name the first topic. Go ahead and make a little
What the hell does
small,
2x
short
mean?
30-second statement, and then we're going to have a back and forth. If it goes,
I'll tell you what.
The rate of change, but what?
Okay, hold on,
why
Adam.
are we
Sorry,
having random
Adam. Just one sec.
calculus
Adam,
questions?
can you hear me? Can you keep
Sorry.
this as lengthy as possible?
Well, I'll keep it as succinct as I can, which is why we had a random calculus question thrown in. That's the exact same question that many years ago Rumpus tried to, bet you can't even do calculus, and asked me to differentiate x squared. It's very odd that McToon's tried to pull the same thing on Brian, as if to go, you can't do calculus.
Yeah, but it works because of the mind frame he's in now. Brian invoked the tangent, right? So are you talking about 2 times the tangent or just the tangent itself? I think it's a good setup question because Brian's the one that put himself in the headlock for some reason. I don't know why he did it. I don't know. Well, yeah, I do. QE's already said why he's done it. But he has done it now.
He don't know why he did.
No, it's dumb. It was a really dumb move. But Brian invoked the tangent. And now all McToon's got to do is spike that one. He served it up to him.
Tangent to what?
Well, what else is it going to be to? It's to a ball.
Well, and what's he drawing it to make this assumption that he's drawing it to a ball?
To be clear, you're asking me what Brian Leake, the flat earther, is drawing his tangent to, correct?
Yeah. In reality,
I don't know what to say. He's claiming to be a flat earther. I don't know what to say in response to that, Adam. What can I do?
Mutter horizon under your breath.
Yeah, but it's the flat earther making the claim now. So why would the baller take your position, Adam? He's won at that point.
Totally. I assume at that point you're reifying the horizon as the leading edge. Obviously, whether you're using straight light or, in their case, terrestrially refracted light, you've conceded the horizon as a physical edge, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, there was no succinct conclusions given by either side to claim victory. But in many respects, did 2 need to? You know what I mean? Okay, I mean, we're going to find out in about 30 seconds whether or not it's worth carrying on this 2-hour live stream a bit further, but I doubt it. We'll see what the subject quality is in terms of their choices for subjects that they cover.
Well, we'll keep doing it. If not, I'm going to move it to 250 each.
Look, if anything, a debate is not really, it's almost not a debate, but McToon is definitely making Brian dance his little dance, the dance that he dances, and he's making Brian do that. And so in that sense, he's definitely winning.
Or 230 each, 2.5 minutes each. But for now, we'll start with open conversation with your first topic. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay. Let's see. My first one, I'm going to say, I wanted to see some demonstrations for the way you were just describing that radius, with the refraction. A demonstration would be nice. I showed the fish tank demonstration and how that works for a flat Earth. If you could show me refraction demonstration for a globe, or if you could just explain the radius, the way you just described it as applied to that white light on the warehouse floor. If you could apply that explanation to that white light that's about 3 inches above the floor in line of sight, that would suffice.
Okay, I'll summarise the position, then I will round out and I'll ask everyone watching on the after show to stay tuned. No. Okay, your example we already covered in respect to asking the question of what it would prove when you made this claim. But now what Brian has done is say, how would you explain this claim to be phenomena induced by example at a small scale on a globe? Well, there is no effect to describe in atmosphere as you did, Brian, because his refraction is a derivative of the R value, 7/6R in standard form. It unbends the Earth. Mathematically, it's got nothing to do with what we see at all. They call it terrestrial refraction to make you think that the refraction part of the title means it's got something that he's now going to bait and switch you with. Talk about how he's measured it with some tool he's got, when in his maths, it's a derivative of the R value. So that summarises that. He doesn't need to example with his bullshittery like you offered. Another example to bullshit, I should say, because he's already done it once, with something that will be later just merely 7/6R in standard form in their calculations. So I don't know why you're giving the opportunity to simply offer up the con of what he says refraction is, when his refraction's terrestrial refraction and it's merely a derivative of the R value. Does anyone else want to give a brief summary before we round out and ask people to stay tuned?
Yes, you asked why, and I already told you why.
Well, have you ever seen Two Scammers, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels? Have you ever seen that movie?
I have.
Right. You have the low rent scammer versus the high society scammer and their interactions. That's what's happening, it seems like. I don't know. I ain't calling them scammers, but if you're assuming they know what they're doing, that's what it looks like.
With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you. Smash the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley. A massive thank you to Discord and G+ panels, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!